Brian, you're chasing what seems to be the continuing story, controversy over the new immigration entry plan, refugee plan from the new president. What do you got?
Well, I've covered immigration issues for like 7 years after 9/11, and I found that there is no issue in this country that people get more divided and more opinionated about. I also found there's no issue that people know less about. The average American citizen, I think, knows more about cellular mitochondria than they do about the immigration system and how it works. And into this whole thing, Donald Trump has sort of stepped in and made it seem like refugees are just pouring into this country, unchecked, unfettered, willy-nilly. Case in point, this guy I met this morning, one of the regulars who hang outside Frank and Pete's Deli in Hamilton.
Well, I think before it was very weak, and I think that anybody could get in this country and everything like that. And now I think they have to tighten the borders up and everything.
So I think anybody could get in.
Exactly.
In reality, the refugee vetting process is so long and so detailed that I can't even get into it here because it's going to bog down this whole segment. Register with the UN, apply and get interviewed by the United Nations. You get a refugee status approval from the United Nations. You get referred to the United States for resettlement. That weeds out 99% of them, all right? Get an interview with State Department contractors, 3 separate background checks that check intelligence bases for criminal and terrorist ties. The only thing that this guy said he wanted to change in this process, he wanted steps taken out of it. He wanted the UN not involved.
I'm all for moving the UN out of the United States because I don't think the UN, like I said, is doing anything what it was originally intended to do.
Now, the UN runs the refugee camps, so I don't know how that would happen. So this whole debate, people have largely taken sides over something that they understand so poorly. It just makes me want to weep.
I'm a relatively well-read, knowledgeable person, but I couldn't recite all of the vetting processes for refugees. But I do know that I can read and pick up a newspaper and read on the internet and know that in 2013 it was the FBI that said we had a problem with our refugee vetting process. So is it a fair assessment to call the man on the street out when it's the FBI that said, hey guys, we got to look at this?
I'm not sneaking up on a guy.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying the assessment.
And I don't like those kind of pieces either. But again, people forming opinions on just nothing.
People will fight to be here because they cannot afford to live where they are because it's war-torn, ravaged, they've got dictators they have to deal with, they don't have a democracy, they don't feel safe, and that's why they're trying to come into the U.S. So yes, it's a very elaborate process. People from the outside are more familiar with the immigration process and our laws than are Americans.
No one disputes the numbers that there are between 12 and 15 million illegals here in the country right now. In the day that this ban went into effect, 325,000 people were stopped, checked, revetted, and only 109 were detained. Not only that, but just as of Wednesday of this week, 200 refugees were allowed entrance. So it's also misinformation to say that there's an outright ban. There actually isn't.